When I speak about private equity and venture capital in different forums and audience, I often get some of the very passionate and nervous question as to can I explain how waterfall and the carry calculation works? What is the LPGP split? What is the preferred returns, etc. Because a lot of professionals and finance freshers as well, uh, they don't clearly understand the method of carry and performance fee calculation in private equity, how waterfall works, what is the LPGP split, preferred returns, GP catch up, etc. And all these terms sounds very esoteric to them. And hence, I often get this question that can you please explain and make some videos over that. And I uh, humbly accept that request. And today is one of the video whereby I'm going to explain these concepts using a numerical example in Excel sheet as well. So why I am going to explain is because I have almost 18 years of experience in private equity and hedge funds, have worked in different countries with some of the large multinational banks and investment banks, etc., as well in this field. And I'm also doing a PhD level research in private equity. Hence, I think I should explain these nuances to everyone who are interested to understand the LPGP splits and the waterfall carry calculations. So before we go into the numerical details, it is important to understand what is the waterfall all about in a very layman language. So as we know, any waterfall goes through a different steps of falling the water through the stairs, and there are various steps. So is the concept of waterfall calculation in carry fee world as well. So what happens is the LP and GP commit certain amount of dollar for private equity investments, and those investments in due course of time are growing, and as part of the portfolio they are sold to generate cash flow. So when the cash is generated at the portfolio level, basically the part of the money is used to return all the capital to the LPs, and if GP have also invested, to GP as well. And then we give them a preferred return. It could be 6%, 7%, 8% annualized basis. Once these two numbers are sorted out, then there is a approach to provide GP catch up to the general partners, and then whatever the money is left also distributed in proportion between the LPs and GP, which I will show with the numerical example. That will be the best. So here we start with a simple numerical example to explain the concept. Let's say there's a requirement for the investment to the tune of $500,000. So this is where we put the number, and the split is shown here in 95% and 5%. So 95% is of course invested by limited partner, and as we know, limited partners will also prefer some investment from GP, general partners, to the tune of say 5%, and hence the split is already shown here. Okay, when the preferred return comes, the preferred return is simply 8%. That is a general trend. So 8%, and investment period is expected to be 5 years. Hence, for 5 years, there is a hurdle rate of 8%. So what will be the preferred return? Simply, we calculate this in this manner. We take the principal invested by limited partner, original capital, multiply by 1 plus hurdle rate, yeah, to the power of how much? 5 years, right? So 5 years. And don't forget to subtract the original amount, which is 475,000. So here we go. This is the preferred return. I'll explain in a minute why I'm only calculating this on 475 and not on 25. Because when we do the calculation for preferred return and GP carry, this is supposed to be done only on LP portion, not on GP, because GP is going to get their catch up later on anyway. So when we calculate the GP catch-up separately, we are not expected to calculate the preferred return on the entire amount. It should be preferred return should only be restricted to the LP portion. Hence, I have calculated the preferred return on LP portion applying 8% of hurdle rate for a period of 5 years. So that is 2.22K. Okay. Now the game starts. So return of capital, as I said earlier, that is the first thing that we must return all the capital to the original investor, whether it is GP or LP, and then provide a preferred return on that as well. In this case, I'm not subtracting the original capital of 475 because I am keeping the capital as well as the preferred return to give back to LP. So I'm not subtracting the original capital, as you can see here, plus this 25,000. And here again, so essentially, treating GP as LP, we are giving them a preferred return. However, when we calculate the GP carry, it will be only based on this number, which is not including the preferred return on GP money. Hence, after returning the total return of capital and preferred return both in these two sales, as we can see, we can check how much money is left for GP catch-up. So here we go. 697, 36, 733 is done. So we also need to imagine amount of proceeds. So let's say amount of proceeds is big enough, 1500,000. Okay. So after we return the return of capital and preferred return, we need to calculate what is the balance amount as well. 15 minus sum of so 765K is left after return of capital and preferred return is done. That means we can pay GP catch up. We need to check if there is still money left. So how do we calculate the GP catch up? The concept of GP catch up is we assume that whatever the amount of money which has been paid to the LP, which is preferred return here only on LP portion, let's say preferred return on LP portion here, we need to assume that this is 80% because the entire GP catch-up is based on the notion of 80-20. So we assume here that preferred return to LP is 80%. And then 20% of that hypothetical number will go to GP. So let's do the math. If this amount is 80%, what is 100%? Let's calculate. So 100% would be this. Oops. Divided by 0.8. So here we go. This is my 100% amount. Let me highlight for your convenience. So if this is 100%, then what is 20% as written here? Because we need to give GP 20% GP catch-up. So GP catch-up would be 20%, which is 55732. Sorry. So we calculate GP catch-up as this amount divided by 0.8 and then multiply by 0.2, which is 20%. 55732. This is what we calculated here. Okay, wonderful. We are able to pay GP carry this much amount as well. So let's say this much is also subtracted here from total cash available. We are still left with 709,000. Next, LPGP split. What is the concept of LPGP split again? So this is a concept, LPGP split, and please remember, it is not GP catch-up, which is here. LPGP split is really our third step. Here what we do is, again we assume that 80% is of left money or of remaining money or remaining cash goes to investors. And let me use this word very carefully, investor, which could be LP plus GP. So what happens to remaining 20%? That remaining 20% will be given to GP as carry. Okay. So this 20% here, 80% here, and this 80% will be distributed between LP and GP both. So if that is the case, what would happen to the percentage? We know that as part of 80%, there is another split here. So that 80% should be split further between LP and GP, right? Because LP has invested 95%, so that 80% will also be multiplied by 95%. So let's say 0.95 times 80. So 76%. And similarly, 5% goes to GP. So 5% of 80%. Yeah. Times 0.8. As percentage. Then let's say this goes here. Am I putting in a wrong place? So 76% would be given to LP, but of what amount? The balance. So let's take the balance amount and multiply by 76%. So 1500 minus, let me put a bracket so that I can multiply by 76%. So total cash minus sum of all the preferred return and capital already distributed. Let me put a double comma here, bracket here, minus GP carry already given, minus, I think that's it, times 76%. Okay, one more bracket here. All right. And similarly, we need to take 4% of remaining capital. So double bracket minus sum of preferred return and capital minus carry our bracket times 4%. So that is 28,384, which means we still have a carry proportion left. I can just take the balance or maybe apply the same approach. Let me take the balance, cash is minus 2. Now we can see that 80% is split between LPGP. Clearly, this is 80%, and 20% goes to GP as carry. In the step 3, LPGP split is conducted this way. So what happens essentially? We here calculate the total amount distributed to LP in all the cell above. So 2 cell here for LP. All the 3 cells are 2 distribution to GP added here, and then the carry distributed to GP so far is also added. So what is the total? Let's do just a final check. 1,500,000, which is matching with this amount. So all the cash which was generated from the business has been distributed in a very structured way. What are we doing? First, return of capital and preferred return at the rate of 8%. Then what we do? We calculate the GP catch-up, assuming that this amount is 80% of the return that should be given. We calculate 100% and then take the 20% for GP. So that is called GP catch-up. Third step is LP-GP split. So we assume that after the carry, GP catch-up is given to GP, and return of capital and preferred return, whatever cash is left, we put that in 2 buckets. One big bucket for 80%, and from 80% we distribute to the different investors, whether it is LP or GP. And then another bucket, which is 20%, that goes as the carry to GP. This is what we do in third step. And finally, we just take the sum total of all the distribution to LP as investor, GP as investor, and then GP carry. This is how the waterfall is calculated. So as you can see, step 1, 2, and 3. This is like a water falling through the stair or hills. So stepwise manner. So it is just like this. Say there's a big waterfall and it's coming through the stairs. And this is how the step 1, step 2, and step 3. This is the waterfall approach here. We talked about the preferred return already here. We talked about GP catch-up in step 2, where we extrapolated this amount to make it 100% and then calculate the 20% of this. That is called GP carry. And third step is LPGP split, whereby we take 80% and divide proportionately in LPGP and then give 20% to the GP as carry. So that is LPGP splits. So today we learned about carry, waterfall, preferred return, GP catch-up, LPGP split, all these concepts. And you can leave any question, query in the comment. The video will be in different social media, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. So you can leave any question or query in the comment, and I would answer when I get a chance. And there will be more videos. It is just a series of the private equity videos, which is started a few weeks back. And there'll be a lot of topic with a lot of nuances which will be explained. So please continue watching, share, and ask your question in the comment so that I can respond later on. Thank you so much.